You may be hearing a lot these days about attendee personas, the attendee journey, maybe attendee mapping, and maybe you're giving some thought to the idea of different segments of your audience. If you've got a larger conference, you've got a variety of types of attendees, new attendees or people that haven't been in the industry for a long time. You've got people that have been to your conference, many times in a row, or have been in the industry, or a customer of yours for a long time, and then lots of people in between. And I've of course, been giving this a lot of thought as well. But we had a formal exercise at our association last week where Experience, who's a partner of ours, had brought in a facilitator from the Merits Institute and really kind of led us through a full day exercise. And part of that was where we split up into groups and kind of picked one type of attendee. And our challenge was to really think about that type of attendee and kind of walk in their shoes. And I got really lucky because the table that I was at, we ended up working on the attendee that they called the networkian. And this type of attendee would be someone who was an early adopter of social media, who really derives a lot of satisfaction out of connecting with people before the conference, and then when they get on site, actually meeting people in real life that they know from Twitter and things like that. And that's this was a really easy attendee type for me to get into because that is the type of attendee that I am when I'm attending a conference. So even though the exercise was set up to where we were supposed to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, it was easy for me to talk a lot about what this attendee might want or what challenges they might have at a conference, because that is the type of attendee that I am. And so even though it was we were supposed to be putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes, this particular exercise was easy for me to kind of figure out and get into that person's head. And that's always how I'm looking at our conference. Of course, that's my first lens. That's my first kind of reaction to things as that attendee, because that is the type of attendee that I am. But going through this exercise really gave me an interesting perspective and an interesting thought around the idea of social media at an event these days. And I feel like we've kind of progressed into just a weird gray area. When social media was new, there was a lot of evangelizing going on around it. And I, of course, was one of the people that was like, yay, social media, every event needs it, and you've got to have it in your app. You've got to have a social wall or like a display where you're showing Twitter and Instagram posts from your attendees, because they're going to share out and people that are following them are going to learn about your conference, and they're connecting with each other, and so it's great. And I think now that we've kind of moved into this area where social media in general is widely adopted, but there's still no one network or one platform necessarily that all of your attendees are on. Even if you do have a large audience, we used to say, well, what are the demographics of your attendees, and are they likely to be on social media? Like that kind of used to be the way you would gauge whether or not you needed to start looking into social media for your event. And now it's kind of just become almost a given, that you would have social media at your event. But at the same time, I feel like now we almost have to look at the different segments, just like you're looking at the different segments of your audience and different types of attendees. Your kind of their use of social media at your event is going to follow along with those types as well. So you're going to have people who are hardcore into social media, and they, that's, a great experience for them. The more you can kind of integrate it into the conference, the better. The more they will share, and they will continue to share, and they will do all those things that you've always wanted them to do, and that's great. So they'll be kind of your power users, and maybe you've already kind of transitioned your program into making them your influencers. Maybe they're getting blogger passes and things like that, and you've already kind of segmented them off into that area. And then you've got the rest, the kind of main section of your population of people who use Facebook mostly for personal uses, maybe a little bit professionally. They're of course on LinkedIn, and maybe they're connecting with people at the conference and then connecting with them on LinkedIn. People they've met. They may or may not be using Twitter at all. They're probably not using Twitter on a daily basis. But at events, Twitter and Instagram really still are the best platforms to use for attendees to connect with each other, to share what they're learning. If you think about Instagram, again, like it's getting really, a lot more adoption. And of course, younger folks are using it more, but now, like a lot of people are just using it, but kind of whether or not they're using it for professional purposes, and they would take pictures, at a conference that they're at and share those on their Instagram account. It really, kind of depends. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, right? You've got folks who've managed to really not participate, or very much or at all, on social media, and so they're still there, and they still, need to have a good experience at your conference, whether or not you're trying to get them to, share on social media, or they're just not having it all, right? Like you were probably going to have, a portion of your attendees that, fall into that category, and so I was just, not that I have a one-size-fits-all answer, to my own question, but I thought it would be interesting to just, kind of put it out there and see what you think. If you've given any thought to social media personas, if you will, just kind of making up that term, but the idea of having different types of attendees, maybe it's a small segment that really are your social media power users, but at this stage in the game where everybody's kind of on social media, but are they going to use it, at your conference? And, what are the things that you're doing to move that needle, to get somebody who might only tweet once to say, hey, I'm here. How do you get them to tweet more than once, for example? Some of the research that Social Point had done showed that for lots of different types of clients and lots of different types of industries, most attendees will just tweet once. So, so you might have a large number of them that, might tweet once during your conference, but how do you move that needle so that you're getting them to tweet maybe 2 or 3 times, throughout the course of their experience at your event? So things like that. Do you need to have social displays to get folks to, tweet or Instagram more? Is that going to motivate the, large population of your attendees, or is that really just going to motivate that small group, that maybe would have been into it anyway? So I'd love to hear what anybody else kind of thinks about social media these days for events, beyond just that, everybody's on it and we should be doing it. Like I'm really trying to dig deeper and find out what other folks are thinking about social media for events these days, now that everybody's on it. So give me your thoughts in the comments, or reach out to me directly. Whatever works for you, I'd love to hear from you.